Toledo, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. It's a stormy Tuesday evening here, May the 4th, 2021. And tonight, as always, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Alberta has the dubious distinction of having the highest number of COVID-19 cases per capita in North America.
Elise Danielle in Washington tells us about the 2021 Safer, Stronger DC Summer Crime Prevention Initiative. Then EJ Gonzalez in Alexandria reports about Virginia easing its pandemic restrictions. Carlo Valdez in Union Township reports about New Jersey's Department of Education announcing grants to create computer science learning hubs across the state. Then Michael Hudson in Seattle reports about two largest counties in Washington state facing a rollback to phase 2 reopening. Then Angel Membrere in Sacramento reports about California gearing up for the fire season with a preparedness week. Then entertainment news with Julie Ann in Las Vegas.
Disney celebrates International Star Wars Day by launching a new series and a new action film that theaters are hoping to lure customers back with.
That's right. Today is National Star Wars Day, and Tenny Sumagi in New York joins us tonight.
The box office verdict on freeing massive Star Wars Skywalker Salvador.
Then several stories for business news tonight. Bobby Soriano in New York reports about Pfizer seeing strong profits due to vaccine sales and the U.S. trade gap with China widening to record highs. And because May is National Bike Month, Bureau Chief Jane Kathleen Gregorio takes us mountain biking. Plus, for tonight's roundtable, we'll head to a galaxy far away, far, far away, and find out who our team's favorite Star Wars characters are. Our coverage begins now. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador promises a full investigation involving international experts into a metro accident that left at least 23 dead in the capital.
Se va a hacer una investigación a fondo, sin miramientos de ninguna índole, buscando conocer la verdad.
The left-wing populist said that the investigation was in the hands of federal and Mexico City prosecutors. López Obrador says speculation is out of the question, much less blaming the possible perpetrators without proof. The metro line that partially collapsed on Monday night was built while Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard was a close ally of López Obrador, was mayor of the capital from 2006 to 2012. Ebrard tells the same news conference that it was a very sad day for everyone and says he shared the outrage and pain over the tragedy.
Cuando esclareces qué ocurrió con pruebas, con elementos, pues establecer qué responsabilidades hay de quienes tengan responsabilidad. Es el más terrible accidente que hayamos tenido en el sistema de transporte colectivo.
In other news, the United Nations Rights Office condemns the excessive use of force by security officers in Colombia after numerous deaths during days of protest against a proposed tax reform. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights voices profound shock at the latest incident overnight in the city of Cali, in which the police are alleged to have opened fire on demonstrators, reportedly killing and injuring a number of people. It calls for calm on all sides ahead of a planned mass protest on Wednesday and stresses that security forces should only use firearms as a last resort. Spokeswoman Marta Hurtado tells reporters in Geneva that the situation remains volatile.
We are deeply alarmed at developments in the city of Cali in Colombia, where police opened fire overnight on demonstrations protesting against tax reforms, reportedly killing and injuring a number of people. We express our profound shock at the events there and stress our solidarity with those who have lost their lives, as well as the injured and their families. But what we can say clearly is that we have received reports and we have witnessed is excessive use of force by security officers, shooting, live ammunition being used, beatings of demonstrators, and as well detentions. All that in a context, in a really volatile, tense context, where demonstrators have been as well being violent and have even there's reports of one, as I said in the text, of one police officer killed.
Protesters in Colombia called Monday for a new mass rally after 19 people died and more than 800 were wounded in clashes during 5 days of demonstrations, according to official figures. Separately, a European Union spokesman says the bloc also condemns the death of the people killed during those protests. Reports are saying that amounts to at least 19 victims and 1 police officer. Vice President Kamala Harris says Washington must respond after the Salvadoran parliament voted to dismiss the Attorney General and top judges of its constitutional chamber. Vice President Harris says an independent judiciary is critical to a healthy democracy and a strong economy.
Just this weekend, we learned that the Salvadoran parliament moved to undermine its nation's highest court. An independent judiciary is critical to a healthy democracy and a strong economy. On this front, on every front, we must respond.
The Vice President underscores the country's dependence on the strength of the Western region.
The strength of the United States of America depends on the strength of all of the Western Hemisphere. In so many ways, our fates are intertwined. That is especially true of Latin America, one of our fastest growing trade partners.
She also addresses the migration issue and expresses the willingness to find out what's causing people to leave their homes.
The citizens of El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras are leaving their homes at alarming rates. But there's a fundamental truth behind that headline. People in the region do not want to leave their homes. We want to help people find hope at home. And so we are focused on addressing both the acute factors and the root causes of migration.
Harris also warns that corruption holds back progress in the region.
However, no matter how much effort we put in on curbing violence, on providing disaster relief, on tackling food insecurity, on any of it, we will not make significant progress if corruption in the region persists. If corruption persists, history has told us it will be 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Now for today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time today, Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 153 million. The top 3 on the list of countries with recorded cases are the United States with more than 32.4 million, now India with more than 20.2 million, and Brazil with more than 14.7 million cases. The virus has now claimed more than 3,217,000 lives worldwide. The countries with the 3 most number of COVID-19 related deaths are, again, the United States with over 577,000, Brazil with more than 408,000, and now India with over 222,000. In other COVID news, new pyres have been built just outside a crematorium in South Delhi as India's total COVID caseload soars past 20 million. Ambulances and with bodies arrive every few minutes and families have to wait, some for a few hours in the capital's scorching heat for their loved ones to be cremated. India's coronavirus caseload topped 20 million on Tuesday as the relentless surge finally forced the suspension of the nation's lucrative cricket competition. involving some of the sport's biggest global stars. The South Asian nation's plight was in stark contrast to Europe and the United States, where mass vaccinations have allowed the easing of many coronavirus restrictions. More than 350,000 new cases were reported in India Tuesday, a drop from the peak of 402,000 last week, giving some cause for optimism that the worst of the devastating wave may have passed. India's healthcare infrastructure has struggled to cope with the huge number of cases, with deep shortages of medicines, hospital beds, and medical oxygen. But the glitzy Indian Premier League, the world's richest 2020 cricket tournament, had carried on in empty stadiums, sparking criticism that it was inappropriate under the circumstances. Organizers say that they did not want to compromise the safety of staff and players, including some of the world's biggest cricket stars from India, Australia, England, and New Zealand. The wave in the South Asian nation, spurred by huge gatherings, including the Hindu festival Kumbh Mela, was highlighted the danger of COVID-19, which has already claimed more than 3.2 million lives worldwide. Now, back here in Washington, during a visit to a community college in Norfolk, Virginia, President Joe Biden urges Americans to get vaccinated now. The president is optimistic that before the summer season ends this year, the country will be in a better situation. Take a look.
I think by the end of the summer, we'll be in a very different position than we are now. As you know, I've worked very hard to make sure we have over 600 million doses of vaccine. We're going to continue to make sure that's available. We're going to increase that number across the board as well, so we can also be helping other nations once we take care of all Americans. All the talk about how people were not going to get shots, they were not going to be involved. Look at what that was. We were told that was most likely to be among people over 65 years of age. But now, people over 65 years of age, over 80%, have now been vaccinated, and 66% fully vaccinated. You know, and I'll end with this, there's a debate into what constitutes herd immunity. Is it 70% of the population? Is it 68%? Is it 81%? The point is that by the end of the summer, right now, every single person 16 years or older doesn't have to wait in line, can show up and get a vaccination now. My plea to everyone, get vaccinated now, please. Thank you.
Now up next, reports from Edmonton, Alberta, Washington, and Virginia. Eagle News America will continue. Stay with us.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our health outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo in Atlanta. An alarming surge in COVID-19 cases has given Alberta the dubious distinction of having the highest number of COVID-19 cases per capita in North America. To tell us more about this disturbing news, Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness is with us tonight. Thomas,
thanks,
how are
Philip.
you doing?
Yeah, good. And I hope all is well with you in Atlanta there. I saw some of the footage of the tornadoes in your region. Hopefully that weather does improve down there. Up here in Alberta, this third wave of the pandemic really has a tight grip on our province. We've got the highest rate, as you mentioned, the highest rate of infection of any Canadian province, any American state. As of Sunday, the latest numbers I was able to get in terms of the actual rate, it stood at 296 cases per 100,000 people. Now down there, I think the hot spot is Michigan. Michigan came close to us at 252. Otherwise, we left everyone else in the dust, and it's not something we're proud of up here. This rate has been growing for some time. The government up here has made some half-hearted efforts to tighten up restrictions, but at the same time, it's tried to straddle a political fence. You know, that fence sees those who agree with the public health experts on one side, and the people who think the pandemic is, well, not that serious, just a flu, you know. They're on the other side of that fence. And it seems as a result, the province's government is always a day late and a dollar short. Well, today, Premier Jason Kenney gave a supper time television address. What did he do? He brought down the hammer. Let me give you the highlights. These new restrictions take effect immediately for at least 3 weeks. Workplaces without breaks must close for 10 days. Although there will be exceptions if it's a critical workplace. Retail stores, customer capacity only at 10% of the fire code occupancy. Outdoor gatherings limited to 5 people. Places of worship limited to 15 people. Funerals can only have 10 mourners. Now, all university classes will have to go online, as will kindergarten to grade 12. That's going to move to online for at least 2 weeks. Starting Monday, personal services such as hair salons will close. There'll be no more outdoor dining for restaurants. Indoor dining had already been prohibited, but now outdoor dining is gone. So all that's left is takeaway food. Those who can work at home, they must do so as well. Fines are being doubled to $2,000 from $1,000. And Kenney says there'll be tougher enforcement for repeat offenders. The Premier stops short of issuing a stay-at-home order, but he says, you know, if you don't have to go out, don't do it. Stay at home. Bottom line, Kenney says the healthcare system is at risk.
We will not permit our healthcare system to be overwhelmed. We must not, and we will not force our doctors and nurses to decide who gets care and who doesn't. And that is why we must act now to stop the spike.
Bit of good news, the vaccine rollout is progressing well. Kenney says 2/3 of those over 50 in the province, 2/3 of them have had at least one dose. I got mine. And he says there's plenty of inoculants on the way, and that will help immunize younger people, But
until then, we have to protect our hospitals. If we don't want widespread delays or cancellations of surgeries and other health care, we have to stop the spike right now. If we want to guarantee a staffed hospital bed for every Albertan that may need one, for any reason, COVID-19 or otherwise, then we have to stop the spike right now.
So hopefully we see those numbers go down soon and we can move out of that top spot for the highest rate of COVID infection. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Thomas, for that report. Now, I'm just curious your thoughts here. Are these new measures in Alberta, are they going to be enough?
Hard to say at this point. Got a bit of reaction so far. Earlier today, I had a look at an open letter signed by dozens of doctors, and they were calling for something exactly like this. I think they would have liked to see him go a little further than he did, maybe issue that stay-at-home order. but it seems they've got his attention. A couple of doctors have said they're pleased that the premier's really tightened up on outdoor activities. You know, we've had outbreaks here at outdoor gatherings. If you're not wearing a mask and you're close to somebody and you are asymptomatic but infected, yeah, you can transmit it outdoors. So it isn't necessarily safer. Opposition politicians, what did they think? Well, typically they panned the announcement, saying it lacked clarity and is confusing. What I found disturbing, though, is that Kenny has exempted a few smaller communities with small outbreaks from these new measures. And I worry about the message that sends because, again, just how seriously are we taking it? Again, it just seems that he's trying to balance himself on that political fence. Philip?
You know, and that's a good point on mixed messaging. And you mentioned, the healthcare professionals there, but how do you think, the average person is going to respond to these new measures that have been announced?
I think the average people in this province, the average person has been calling for these measures, but you don't hear from them. They're quiet. I was talking with somebody who's married to a small business owner this afternoon, and he says, yeah, she's okay with shutting down her hair salon for a couple of weeks. We've got to get this thing under control because she's also at risk. She's out there dealing with dozens of different people throughout the week. So they're not protesting at all. Unfortunately, it's the loud voices that we hear, the shrill protests coming from that minority of people who, for some reason, think it's a conspiracy. They catch the attention of politicians who in turn yield to them instead of showing some leadership. And I suspect tomorrow morning, the usual suspects will all be out there staging their public objections, but hopefully the enforcement will be stepped up. And I think the key is there because you can't arrest hundreds of people. There's not enough jail cells in the country. I think the key there is to go after the organizers, not one or two, but say the entire executive of one of these organizations, because, once unpaid volunteers start feeling the long arm of the law on their shoulders, it's no longer going to be fun and games. Like they say, it's all fun and games until someone gets hit with a large fine or a jail sentence. Philip?
That's right, Thomas. Now, I know one of the hot topics, down on this side of the border is herd immunity, and how are we going to get there as more people, it's almost like we're plateauing on the vaccination distribution. What about there? Is vaccine hesitancy an issue there in the province?
Yeah, in Alberta, it certainly is. We've got the probably highest rate of hesitancy in Canada. And that's one thing the government hasn't talked about enough. We've done it on this program. I think many of our correspondents have talked about the problem of hesitancy there, but very little from our government up here. An estimated 15% of Albertans say they will absolutely not get immunized. Another 13% say, well, I'm not sure, but probably not. So that's 28%, a little over 1 out of 4 people saying we're not going to take that shot. And to make matters worse, we've got members of the governing party saying, the great thing about freedom is the freedom not to be immunized. They're almost promoting the fact that it's a badge of honor. I'm tough. I'm from Alberta. I'm not going to get infected. And when that message comes from an elected member, it sways a lot of people that are on the fence. And again, sad to say, it's politics overriding science, and that's very frustrating. Philip?
Understandable, Thomas. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight with that report, and hopefully you'll stay with us as we talk about, which I'm sure is going to be your favorite topic, Star Wars, here at the end of the show.
We'll have something to say on that, Philip. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Thomas. Now, in Washington, a yearly crime prevention initiative kicks off as the summer season approaches. We have Eagle News correspondent Elise Danielle to tell us more.
Thank you. Mayor Muriel Bowser launches the Safer, Stronger DC Summer Crime Prevention Initiative, or SCI. The initiative is a coordinated effort to reduce violent crime in specific areas in the district through strategic prevention and coordinated enforcement. Every year for almost 11 years, the Metropolitan Police Department, or MPD, has identified areas of the city that have experienced a high density of violence and utilized all available resources. These resources include collaborative outreach preventing violent crime in those focus areas during the summer months. It runs from May 1st to the end of August. Mayor Bowser says the district brings back this program each year because data shows it drives down crime in the neighborhoods targeted.
The Summer Crime Initiative was very effective in reducing theft in those areas by 46%. Reducing burglaries by 29%, and producing an overall decrease in violent crime by 10%. And overall crime decreased by 25%. MPD doesn't do this alone. We work with all of our agencies, including DBH, DCPS, and DPR, to make sure that we have a holistic approach to dealing with neighborhoods where we have seen too much violent crime.
The mayor says it's not just about policing and not just about what MPD is doing. It's about engaging people, providing opportunity, and working across DC government to bring resources and support to residents who need them. Through focused prevention and strategic enforcement, and with the support of agency partners, SCI aims to reduce violent crime, remove illegal guns from our streets, hold repeat violent offenders accountable, utilize the latest crime-fighting technology, collaborate with partner agencies and organizations for additional assistance, and implement innovative outreach for all community members. This year's summer's focus areas include Potomac Gardens, Rosedale, Langston Carver, Greenway, Fort DuPont, Marshall Heights, Benning Ridge, Washington Highlands, and Douglas Shipley. After the announcement, Acting Chief Conti led a kickball game with MPD officers and community members. MPD also provided athletic equipment on site to youth as part of a recent initiative to build stronger relationships with the community. Right now, it is 73 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius in the nation's capital. In Washington, Elise Danielle, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you.
Thanks, Elise Danielle. Meanwhile, the state of Virginia is looking at easing pandemic restrictions come May 15th. Eagle News correspondent EJ Gonzalez tells us which COVID safety protocols residents are about to say goodbye to.
Thank you. Here are the current COVID-related numbers for the state of Virginia. According to the Virginia Department of Health, the 7-day positivity rate has steadily been decreasing and now stands at just 4.5%. Here in the northern region of the state, there are 0 new confirmed cases and only 6 probable cases recorded. Virginia records 53 confirmed new cases yesterday, with a majority of those coming from the northwest and central regions of the state. The number of those vaccinated increases for the state as a whole. 45.1% of Virginians have now received at least 1 dose. The total number of doses administered is now over 3.8 million. Over 2.7 million Virginia residents have now been fully vaccinated. This is equivalent to 32% of the state's population. Now, research shows that the majority of vaccinations come from local health departments, with pharmacies being second on that list. With COVID cases declining and vaccinations increasing, Governor Northam issues a statement saying Virginia will begin to operate with eased restrictions as early as Saturday, May 15th. Take a look.
Vaccination numbers are up and our COVID case numbers are way down. So we have been able to begin easing some mitigation measures. We took a few more targeted steps this week, and we will do more next month. Starting May the 15th, social gatherings can have a few more people. More people can go to theaters and entertainment venues, and more people at sporting events. but we all need to keep spreading out. And starting now, restaurants can go back to seating patrons in their bar areas, but we all need to spread out there too. I'm optimistic that we will be able to take more steps in June. We're aiming to significantly ramp up vaccinations even further and aim to reduce mitigation measures in June, hopefully all the way.
Now, some of the changes coming in a couple of weeks include social gatherings indoors allowing 100 people, social gatherings outdoors allowing 250 people, and entertainment venues to allow 50% at a maximum of 1,000 people. Governor Northam says that there may be minor changes to the mitigation measures as the CDC guidelines continue to evolve. However, face coverings and social distancing will still be mandated even after restrictions are further eased. In Alexandria, Virginia, EJ Gonzalez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you.
Thanks, EJ. Still to come, updates from Washington State and entertainment news with Julianne and Tenny Sumagi. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
It's time to head over to Julianne Docena in Las Vegas for a look at movies and show options this week.
Thank you, Philip. If you're vaccinated and ready to get back out into the world, then you might want to take a date to the movie theaters for an action-packed thriller. This Friday, action star Jason Statham and director Guy Ritchie are teaming up again for the first time in over 15 years to bring us Wrath of Man, a revenge thriller.
I don't know, do I?
But Ritchie invites viewers to take note of underlying concepts that he feels gives depth to the story.
There are few subjects as sensitive as the unpalatable concept of a child dying before the parent. It's even worse when a child is murdered. An innocent child is murdered. But when the father happens to be a killer himself, it inspires all sorts of empathetic vengeance that anyone can relate to.
Always a fan favorite, Statham is on a quest to find those responsible for killing his son. The quick pacing and action-packed scenes director Ritchie is known for makes this movie a good choice for in-theater viewing. Now, bear in mind, some theaters have dropped social distancing protocols for sections of the theaters reserved for fully vaccinated guests, but most will still require masks throughout the premises. The exception will be when you're seated and eating that oh-so-good theater popcorn. However, if you still prefer to watch from the comfort of your own home, then Disney's Bad Batch might be the pleasant surprise for you.
Wars rage. Empires rise.
In honor of International Star Wars Day, Disney Plus launched Bad Batch, the latest animated spin-off of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Positive feedback is already blowing up social media as fans express their surprise in the quality and depth of the first episode. First introduced in the Clone Wars, the series follows this batch of elite and experimental clone troopers as they find their way in an ever-evolving galaxy following the aftermath of the Clone War. Each member of the crew possesses an exceptional skill set that, when combined with the others, makes the Bad Batch a formidable crew. Unfortunately, Disney Plus no longer offers a free trial to view their content. But if you have friends or family who are subscribers, you may be able to watch via Disney's Group Watch. It's still movie night, just virtual style. You each watch from the comfort of your own space. Subscribers can stream with up to 6 friends and control the experience by pausing and rewinding to allow group reactions. So the more things get back to normal, the more things can change for the better. In Las Vegas, Julianne Docena, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Julianne. Now, I hear that A-listers are making their way back to Las Vegas. Are there any that we should be interested in?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of A-listers we're waiting for a lot of A-listers to report when they're going to come back officially. But the first one is actually our resident superstar, Bruno Mars, who just recently announced that he's coming back the weekend of July 4th. So if, anyone had tickets to his previous residency, this is making up for it, but there are still tickets for sale out there. I believe they're resale tickets right now, so that, the original tickets were all sold out. So it's going to be a great show. He's a great entertainer, and aside from him, there's so many more coming. I believe Dave Chappelle is also having a comedy stunt here, so that should be interesting to see. Lots to expect in this coming summer.
Absolutely. It's starting to feel just a little bit more normal, if I do say so myself. Thank you so much for joining us, Julianne. And it's still Star Wars May the 4th. Stay with us for our roundtable later today. Now, today is May 4th, like I just said, or what has become popularly known as Star Wars Day. Take a look at an exclusive interview by EBC New York correspondent Tenny Sumagi and box office artist and Star Wars superfan James Reyes at the Dolby Studio in Soho, New York.
Thanks, Philip. He's known as the box office artist to his 1.42 million subscribers on YouTube, blowing them away with his creative sketches from different drawings of Transformers, Marvel characters, and more. But what many people don't know about Canadian illustrator James Reyes is that he's been an avid Star Wars fan since childhood. And he had the opportunity of making a mural of his favorite movie sequel before the pandemic hit. Let's take a look as we talk about the inspiration of the mural, plus he gives advice on those who want to be YouTube influencers.
So you're an avid Star Wars, I would say, a Star Wars fanatic.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, take us through this mural.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind this mural?
Well, in 2017, I wanted to do something that was original for my channel, and I wanted to do a piece that had like all Star Wars characters on it. I wanted to do something crazy. But before I started, instead of doing characters, I wanted to do a piece with like scenes, everyone's favorite scenes. So I did that mural in 2017. It had episodes 1 through 7 in Rogue One, and Disney saw that. And they said, this is really cool. Why don't you do something for us? Now, I did a mural for them for Infinity War, and this year they said, why don't you do the Skywalker Saga mural? And that's what this represents. So no Rogue One here. They wanted me to focus on the actual saga films. So episodes 1 through 9. I had to really tone it down. This because I wanted to include all of the movie, every single bit. But I also knew episode 9, I wouldn't have that luxury of knowing what was in that movie. They wouldn't tell me anything. They said you have to look at the trailers, try to figure out what to draw. So I knew I couldn't get as much detail, so I kind of toned down the detail on all of these, right? Just sticking to things that I felt needed to be there for the most part. But in that sense, it actually took longer than my original because of trying to figure out, okay, what needs to be here, what doesn't need to be in these particular drawings.
Let's take us through, which part was actually your favorite doing, and which one was probably the most challenging? I personally love this.
Oh, right on. Yes, yes.
Who doesn't love Darth Vader?
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
Who doesn't like lightsabers?
Right on. Well, I wanted the overall feel to feel very reminiscent to the original movie posters by Drew Struzan. Okay, if you look at Juice Drew's original for Empire, it's very similar to this, in a sense. Like well, he didn't have a Super Star Destroyer here; he had a regular Star Destroyer. But Darth Vader's head in the middle because the saga really evolves around him. I wanted him in the middle of this piece here. But even in terms of the color scheme and the way everything's set up, I wanted it to feel very Drew Struzan-esque, who I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of years ago. Wonderful guy. So I wanted that feel, even when it comes to the shooting stars there. That's something very reminiscent of Drew Struzan type poster. But in terms of my favorite parts to this, one thing, like The Last Jedi, I didn't get to draw last time I did it, so that was fun putting that together. Of course, drawing The Rise of Skywalker, that was fun, and even just trying to interpret what would be there. That was a lot of fun putting that particular one together. Episode 4 was the one I actually did first. I drew episode first, so it actually has the most detail, right? In terms of the prequels, I actually like drawing all the different Jedi that were there. That's one wonderful thing I loved about the prequels was they had all these different Jedi, like with all these different species that Lucas created. So drawing all of those, I really had a good time drawing it.
What is the greatest advice that you've got from, say, your mentors or people that you could share with, like, the future illustrators? Okay,
whether you want to be an illustrator or you want all that, I think my number one advice is patience. It all takes time. Especially this generation, everybody wants the overnight. They want it to happen overnight. I want 1 million subscribers in a week. That's how people think. But it doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. If you want to be an artist, draw every single day. You want to be a makeup artist, make up your face every single day. You want to be a YouTuber, make sure you do something that will get you to that goal every single day. Because it takes time, okay? And understand it will take time. Take years, in fact. But keep going at it. It's really something you love to do. You need that patience, and you need that drive, and you need to be consistent. And the longer you do it, the better chance it will happen. So, okay?
The greatest wisdom from the greatest artist.
No, not the greatest. from this mediocre artist here in New York. But happy to be here. Yes.
All right, signing off here from Soho with James Riley. I'm Tenny Samagi for Eagle News.
A very talented artist, Philip, indeed. I've been privileged to have known James for almost 20 years, and I've seen his work evolve from the time he's been doing Comic-Con in San Diego and New York, and now he's one of the most popular YouTube influencers. And I'm going to give a shout out to James and his wife, Ruth, for celebrating their 18th anniversary. And also a shout out to all the teachers this week for National Teachers Appreciation Week. Okay, signing off here in New York, Tenny Samagi, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks so much for that report, Tenny. And it's really incredible. The artistry that you were able to show us that James has been able to do, and it really gets me excited about Star Wars because here in just a few moments we're going to have our roundtable where we talk everything Star Wars for National Star Wars Day. But up next, we'll still have business news with Bobby Soriano, and then we'll go mountain biking with Kathleen Gregorio before we head to that galaxy far, far away. You're watching Eagle News America. We'll be right back.
Samahan sina Wedge Kujamat,
itong balitang panggising sa ulo ng mga balita.
Apple David,
Sa 60 katao ang isinugod sa ospital.
Phoebe Publico,
Economic sabotage ang mga tiwaling negosyante.
at Cristel Fesalbon
Pagpresyo ng gulay, makakausap natin.
para iatid sa inyo ang mga kaganapan at pangyayari sa bansa at sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Mga napapanahong isyu ng bayan. May balitang sports, entertainment at iba pang kaalaman. Simula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng umaga sa paborito nyong morning show, Pambansang Almusal, dito sa Net 25.
Pambansang Almusal.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Several stories from our business desk tonight. Pfizer, as expected, is seeing very strong profits due to vaccine sales. Plus, the U.S. and China's trade gap widens to record highs. In New York, Bobby Soriano files this report.
Good evening. U.S. markets have closed. Here are your latest business headlines. The pharmaceutical industry continues to see strong growth throughout the pandemic and looks to benefit even as economic restrictions begin to lift. In their earnings call this morning, Pfizer announced sharply increased projections for 2021 revenues and profits, citing much higher COVID-19 vaccine sales and plans for a durable revenue stream through increased global vaccination sales and booster doses. The drug maker now estimates 2021 revenues of $26 billion from the vaccine, up from $15 billion previously, with an EPS between $3.55 and $3.65 for the year, up 45 cents from previous estimates. Pfizer is taking several paths to achieve increased earnings expectations, with the company expected to soon be given FDA approval in the United States to provide shots to children 12 to 15 years old, as well as researching the effect of vaccine doses to healthy children 6 months to 11 years old. Pfizer also is evaluating a third dose of the treatment to understand the effect of a booster against COVID-19 variants, now in circulation. The drug maker further mentioned it has reached agreements with Israel to supply millions of doses in 2022, Canada to supply 125 million doses in 2022 and 2023, with options into 2024. Pfizer shares closed in the green by almost 0.5%, despite the broad sell-off that rippled through the rest of the market. The U.S. trade gap was driven to new highs this past March, fueled by the rising return of American consumer spending, bringing in record amounts of imported goods. According to the Commerce Department, the trade deficit rose 5.6% to a record $74.4 billion, seasonally adjusted, with much of the deficit attributed to incoming Chinese goods. Total amount of imported goods and services rose 16.4 billion to 274.5 billion in the month, also a historic high. Economists are attributing the widening trade gap to faster U.S. growth relative to the rest of the world, where the strong U.S. consumer is pulling in more imported goods than the amount of exported goods going out to buyers in other countries. Consumer goods imports increased by 4.5 billion, led by jumps in apparel, household goods, automobiles, and semiconductor purchases. Major U.S. indices were flat or down today, powered by a sell-off in the tech sector as investors rotate to financial and energy stocks that look to benefit from the reopening of the country. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
May is National Bike Month, and to continue our celebration, Bureau Chief Jane Kathleen Gregorio will take us mountain biking tonight. A San Antonio biker forms a group of cyclists who share the same passion as he has when it comes to pedaling. They call themselves the Bike Hikers. Jane, what can you tell us?
Thank you, Philip, and howdy from the Lone Star State. In honor of National Bike Month, we caught up with cyclist Mark Canlapan, founder of the Bike Hikers, a group of mountain bike enthusiasts who share a common love for blazing a path through local and state parks and bike trails around Texas. One of their most ambitious was braving the mountain trails of the Big Bend State Park, where they collided face-to-face with the severe winter storm that rocked every county of Texas this past February. Mark Canlapan shares not only his experience with that, but also some tips for future cycling enthusiasts. Let's take a look.
My name is Mark Canlapan of San Antonio, Texas. I'm a professional mountain biker here in San Antonio, and we have a group called Bike Hikers. We created this group, Bike Hikers, and it started a two-person group. Well, actually, it's me and my buddy Francis Morales. A couple of years later, some of us joined the group, and then we met another group that joined us. So it's fun. You don't have to actually be too fit to do it, but there's always a first timer. Once you join the group, we will teach you the know-how and the safe way to do it, and gear and all that stuff. Planning rides. We go to state parks, which We recently went to Big Bend, so 6 of us went to Big Bend, and we encountered this blizzard. It was pretty bad, you know, if you think about it, but we survived and we made it. Whatever you're doing, make it safe, and don't forget to wear your helmet and your safety gear. I've been riding bikes, mountain bikes, for 30 years of my life, so I've been injured. I mean, it's all part of whatever you're doing, especially mountain biking. If you started riding your bike, plan ahead. Things you can actually go to YouTube, or if you're a first-timer mountain biker, go with a group, especially if you know them for a while. Teach you a lot of stuff like you don't really know, and besides that, looking at YouTube is helpful. But personally, for me, I train people how to shift, the right equipment, and whatever you need to bring on a long trip or in a long bike ride. So if you're doing that, I mean, you'll be all right. Well, for all of you who's celebrating Bike Month, happy biker and happy bikers.
Meanwhile, I hope you are staying safe and healthy and cultivating your own passions in your part of the country. In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Jane. Now, real quick, I heard that you have a family member who is actually part of the bike hikers. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, Philip. As a matter of fact, my husband, Daji Gregorio, recently took an interest in mountain biking, and he was recruited by Mark to join the bike hikers. Since then, he has biked in local parks with the group, such as Government Canyon in San Antonio, Flat Rock, Opie Schnabel Park, and he was also with them during the Big Bend bike trek of Snowvid 21. Our family was really worried about them during that time, but relieved that they got back home safely from that trip. Philip?
Thanks, Jane. Now, like what was mentioned earlier in our program today, it is the 4th of May, and Star Wars fans across the world wait for this day every year, because that's when we can say, "May the 4th be with you." Now, it's only right that we talk about Star Wars, this cultural phenomenon that has spanned generations and crossed national borders. And since we're running a little low on time, we're going to try to be like the Millennium Falcon and do the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. And so we're going to do a round robin as fast as we can. And I want to ask Thomas, what is your favorite Star Wars movie or TV series?
Well, actually, I'd have to say all of them, and that's because of my favorite character. His name is John Williams. Who's that, you said? Well, you never saw him on the screen, but you heard the music he wrote. He scored 9 of those films, about 18 hours worth of music, and it's just great music. Love the orchestration. Philip?
Thanks, Thomas. Now, Kathleen, what about you? Or Jane Kathleen, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Well, I am a fan of Harrison Ford, Han Solo. I feel sad that we lost him during one of the movies. I think it was Rogue One. But I'm happy, though, that I'm happy that he has been a legend in these series. And I look forward to watching the rest of the movies, as I still have yet to complete the series. Philip?
Absolutely. Now, Tenny, what would you say, C-3PO or R2-D2?
Oh, can I share with you my favorite character? Can you take a guess?
It looks like Princess Leia. Maybe.
Ding, 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 ding. But I will go with R2-D2. I just like his name. R2-D2.
All right. Julianne, who's cuter, an Ewok or Baby Yoda? Or Grogu, if you actually watched.
Oh man, what a question. I would have to say Baby Yoda, because huge fan of The Mandalorian, although that's not his actual name.
Absolutely. Now, I want to ask a follow-up question to you, Julie. Can you please give us your absolute best Chewbacca impression?
I can try. But I actually don't even know how to make such a sound.
Thomas, can you help
pass
her
on
out?
this question?
Oh, I don't want to take the spotlight away from her.
Okay, what about Tenny?
Something like that.
There you go. That was a good one. That was a good one. And now, real quick, before we go, let me just ask, Jane, why do you think Star Wars is so appealing to so many people?
I imagine it's the story of, the one person who is supposed to save the universe, and also, like the different interlayering family stories and, stories of victory, good versus evil. It appeals to a lot of readers, a lot of viewers, I imagine.
Julianne, when was the first time that you watched Star Wars?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually started watching Star Wars when I was like a baby. I don't even remember when I started, but my mom used to leave me in the living room with Star Wars playing, and when I would get scared, I'd just walk out for that scene. And like I literally knew how long that scene would be, so I'd come back. So basically my whole life.
That sounds great. Now, Tenny, if you had to be a Star Wars character, which one would you be?
What? Come on, Philip. Remember?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, my goodness. I'm losing my mind.
Leia when I was little, too. So that's why I've been a big Princess Leia fan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Thomas, how many times have you watched Star Wars?
I'm embarrassed to say I haven't. I've heard about it. I love the music. When I was an assignment editor in my first major market radio station, people used to call me Darth Vader. I don't know whether, was that a compliment or I'm not sure.
It depends on which part of the series you're in, I guess.
It would have been, this would have been in the early 80s.
So maybe not. But thank you so much for that, Thomas, and everyone for our hyperdrive round of roundtable tonight. Now, before we go, there's something that we have to do. It's even more important than talking about Star Wars, but we have to end our program with a salute to all of our healthcare workers, first responders, essential workers, everybody out there. Give you a round of applause. Thank you so much for all that you do. We truly appreciate you. Now, that is it for tonight's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that wherever you are in the world, that you're staying safe and that you're staying well. I'm Philip Toledo. We live in interesting times.